بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. أما بعد, my dear brothers and sisters, in our session on Living Islam, we are talking about the institution of marriage in Islam. Now we start with the praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All praise and thanks be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator, the maintainer, the owner of the universe, all that we know and all that we don't know. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salam ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen. And peace and blessings and our salam on the best of all creation, the best of all human beings, ashraful anbiya, the best of the prophets, the best of the messengers, Ashraful Anbiya wal Mursaleen, Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Rasulullah, the messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We begin with sending our salutations and our salam on the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I remind you and myself that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُم مَّوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ, which means in Surah Al-Rum, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, after أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, we seek the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from shaitan, the rejected. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and among his signs is this: He creates for you mates out of your own kind, so that you might find contentment. لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا, so that you find sukoon with them. And He engenders and He puts love and tenderness between you. وَبَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً, and He puts between you love and mercy. Inna fi dhalika la ayatin liqawmin yatafakkarun. In these are signs, and behold, in this are signs and messages indeed for people who reflect and think. This is the style of the address of the Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us things and encourages us to reflect on those things, not to just follow blindly, but to think about those things and to reflect on them and to take heed and lesson from them. My brothers and sisters, as I am sure you are aware, marriage in Islam is a legal contract. It is a contract between two people in the presence of witnesses, the best of whom is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself, before whom the contract is made and to whom the ones making the contract will be accountable. And this is as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that this contract is something which you seek you seek help from Allah, and Allah is the one who will decide, because you are making this contract in keeping with His orders. Therefore, though the marriage in Islam is a legal contract, it is something which is rewardable, it is something which is counted as ibadah, as worship, if it is done in the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us to do it, which was taught to us by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. I remind you and myself, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah An-Nisa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Ya ayyuhan nasu taqoo rabbakum alladhi khalaqakum min nafsin wahidah wa khalaqa minha zawjaha wa batha minhuma rijalan kathiran wa nisaa wattaqullaha alladhi tasaaluna bihi wal arham inna Allaha kana alaykum raqiba. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, O mankind, have taqwa of your Rabb Jalla Jalaluhu, who created you from a single person, Adam alayhi salam, and from him, Adam alayhi salam, he created his wife, Hawa alayhi salam, and from them both He created many men and women. And fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's punishment, fear His anger, through whom you demand your mutual rights, which is the mutual rights in a marriage. You demand them through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala jalla jalaluhu. And do not cut the relationship of the wombs, do not cut relationship of kinship. Surely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ever and all watcher over you. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us to do that which is pleasing to Him and to save us from that which displeases Him. So my brothers and sisters, as we can see here, the marriage is a legal contract between two parties in the presence of witnesses, and we are saying here, I am saying to you that the presence of two human witnesses obviously is required, but the best of all witnesses is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala jalla jalaluhu Himself, because He knows what we see and He knows what we do not see, which is in our hearts. My brothers and sisters, it is therefore essential that these two people, the husband and the wife, the prospective bride and groom, are aware and they understand what they are contracting to do. I recited before you an ayah from the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls the institution of marriage one of His signs, the ayat of Surah Al-Rum, which I recited before you, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala jalla jalaluhu said, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا. From His signs is that He created and creates for you mates among your own kind. Now think about this, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls this His sign, and then He mentions three qualities of that. لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. Allah says the three signs are that He creates for you mates so that, why did He create? So that you have peace and harmony and tranquility. Number one. Number two, that there is love between you, and He put this love between you. And number three is that you have mercy for each other. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used three critical words in this ayah. The first word is sukoon. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that He creates mates for you from your own kind so that you may find sukoon with them. Now what is sukoon? Sukoon is a word that we use in Urdu as well, and so I'm sure those who speak Urdu have already an understanding of that. In Arabic, sukoon is the opposite of al-haraka, right? Sukoon is the opposite of movement. Haraka is movement and sukoon is the opposite of movement. Now in Arabic grammar, the equivalent of the matra which we have in Hindi, in Devanagari script, a, e, u, in Arabic this is called harakat. These are called haraka. We have the fatha, dhamma and kasra, the a, u and e. In Urdu we call it zabar, zer, pesh. All of these are haraka. Now, which tells us that this letter moves, meaning how it is to be pronounced. So this letter is saying a, e or u, so it is going one way or the other, and this is determined by the haraka, the movement sign which is on the letter. Now in sukoon, when there is sukoon, or in Urdu we call it jazm, when there is a sukoon on the letter, it means that the letter remains as it is. It does not say a, e or u. The letter remains in one place. It will not move and it will be pronounced, it is in its original form. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used the term sukoon as the first purpose of the marriage. Right? So please understand this. Sukoon is the first purpose, that you may have tranquility between the two of you. So if there is no tranquility in a marriage, then that marriage is not performing the function for which it was made. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that He creates mates for us so that we may find sukoon with them, so that we may find contentment with them, so that we may find tranquility with them. The first condition of the contract is that which the spouses are undertaking is to promise that they will henceforth lead their lives in such a way that they will make their companionship, their home, their being together, and their support for one another a source of contentment and sukoon and tranquility for each other. This is the first and foremost thing that the two people, the husband and the wife, the prospective husband and the wife, the bride and the groom, are entering into. It is very important for you and me to understand what we are doing. Remember, a contract is something which we are questionable for before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if I am entering into a contract, I must fulfill the conditions of that contract. And the first condition of the marriage is that there should be sukoon in it. And the couple are undertaking, and they are saying that in their togetherness, in their companionship, in their home, in their being together wherever they are, and in support for each other, there is going to be sukoon. They are making Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself a witness that henceforth they will not look elsewhere other than towards each other for all requirements of their marriage. That their eyes, their ears, their hearts, their hands, their feet will not stray away from their spouse. There will be no haraka, no movement away from the spouse. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give I give you all sukoon with your spouses. Those who are married, to have sukoon with your spouses. Those who are not married, to give you spouses with whom you can have sukoon. This also means that both of them, both the husband and the wife, will make an effort to create a home which is a place of sukoon, which they look forward to returning to after having been away from it for various reasons. So for reasons of work and so on and so forth, you leave the home, but you hope that and wish that when you come back home, this home will be a place of sukoon, a place of tranquility, a place of peace and harmony. Imagine a ship which is out in the ocean, out on the high seas, and is being buffeted and beaten and battered by storms and so on and so forth. And then, so what does the captain of the ship, what does the ship seek? It seeks safe harbor. Now imagine when it comes into the harbor, there is a new storm which has started off in the harbor, a new storm which has been brewing all day in that harbor, and as soon as the ship enters the harbor, the storm smashes itself onto the ship. What do you think will be the fate of that ship? Yeah, this is the issue of marriage. So when the husband or the wife comes home, there should be no storm in the home. The home must be a safe place. The home must be a place where people do not have to, the husband and the wife, the bride and the groom, the man and the woman, they don't have to put on, they don't have to pretend, they need not have a face to show and a face to hide. They should not have any masks that they need to wear, right? They should be able to have a mask-free existence. They should be able to be themselves, not to be play acting, pretending to be something which they are not. We need to do all of this outside, right? I'm not talking about hypocrisy, I'm not talking about lying and cheating, but outside the home, we need sometimes to have a mask. Sometimes you might be irritated with somebody, but you can't show that. Sometimes you love somebody, but you can't show that. Many things are there out in the outside world, which in the area of communication and in the area of human relations, you have to guard your words, you have to guard your expressions, you have to guard your feelings. You cannot be yourself, you can't be free. But imagine when you come back home, if you are still in the same place, if you still cannot be free, if you still can't be yourself, if you are still in a place where you feel judged and you always have to live up to this this ridiculous image, whatever that image is, with your wife or with your husband, and you can't sort of, figuratively speaking, let your hair down. I mean, I have no hair, but I'm just saying, if you can't, figuratively speaking, let your hair down, and you must always be on your guard, because if you lower your guard, you're going to get stabbed, you're going to get attacked. I mean, this is a horrible existence. This is a living hell, right? A marriage can, believe me, a marriage can be a living Jannah or a living hell, and it's entirely in your hands. Entirely in your hands. And remember, it's not one-sided. If you are making your marriage a living hell for your husband or your wife, remember, say you are doing the same thing for yourself. You cannot be swimming in a pool of filthy water and expect to remain clean. What you do in the home affects you also. It affects you, it affects the children if there are any children, and so on and so forth. So remember, when you are making an effort to build a home with tranquility, with sukoon, you are doing yourself a favor. You are not doing a favor to anybody else. You are doing yourself a favor. Please do make the effort. It is worth it. It is not worth having strife and struggle in the home. This does not mean you don't disagree with something. Of course you disagree. You have a right to disagree. You have a right to have a difference of opinion. But do that nicely, do that gently, do that politely, do that with love, with affection. Don't do that in a way which creates turmoil in the house. The second issue here is with sukoon, as I said, is lack of haraka, lack of movement, not looking here and there, not chasing here and there, not having this, bosom pals and great close friends who know more about you than your own spouse, right? This is very, very bad. Trust is the foundation, it's the backbone of a marriage. If there is no trust, there is no marriage. Sometimes people ask me, my wife looks at my messages on my phone, my husband looks at my messages on my phone, what shall I do? And my question is, before you say what shall you do, ask yourself, why is that happening? Because if you think that you need to look at the messages, your husband's messages on the phone, ask yourself, why are you doing that? What's in your heart? You don't trust your husband? You don't trust your wife? And if you do not trust them, then what kind of marriage is that? Do you think you are still married to them? Hey, I'm not talking about the fiqh aspect of it. Did you give a divorce or not give a divorce? I am saying that if it's a marriage where you believe you have to look into somebody's phone, if you have to look into, read their diary, read their mail, how pathetic and miserable and horrible and disgusting that is. And remember, there must be a reason, right? So think about that. Think and say, what kind of reason is that? What reason was that? Why did it come to this stage where my husband or my wife feels compelled to look at my phone? There will be a fault on both sides. You might, may Allah protect you, but you might end up, you might have married somebody who is suspicious by nature. Remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited suspicious. Read Surah Al-Hujurat. Allah said, La tajassasu. Allah said, do not spy on one another. Suspicion is sin. He said, sometimes suspicion can be sin. Because the problem with suspicion is that there is no way of disproving that. Proof, listen carefully, proof or evidence by definition can only be for something which happened. Right? Something which happened. If the thing didn't happen, there cannot be any evidence. Suspicious people are people who want evidence of something that did not happen. That is by definition not possible to give. Prove to me that you did not do this. How is it possible? It's logically impossible. I can prove that I did something. How can I prove I did not do something? If I did not do, there is no evidence. How can I prove it? So please, stop suspecting. And if you really think there is need for suspecting, then go consult a counselor, and maybe this marriage of yours is gone. Do not look away from the marriage. Don't look away, don't look at other people, don't form friendships of, dealing with another man or a woman within the boundaries of Islam, alhamdulillah, this is permissible. But not doing that, instead of that, taking that dealing to a personal level, flirting with people, flirting with a man or a woman, becoming very close to them in a personal way, this is not permissible in Islam. Absolutely not. So please, stay faithful. That is because you have promised to be faithful before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Stay faithful. The second word that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used in this ayah is al-mawaddah, where He said, وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً, and He puts love between you. Now this refers to the love that the spouses feel for one another. The love is both physical and it is emotional. But remember, here we are not just talking about physical sex. You're talking about love. It's emotional primarily. And of course the physical needs. But love is an outcome of respect. We cannot love somebody for whom we have no respect. And it is essential therefore for the spouses to pay attention to the good from each other and to forgive the mistakes. The spouses are like mirrors to each other. They reflect what they see, but they have a selective memory. When a new image comes before the mirror, it is reflected with reference to the good from earlier images, whatever it was. Someone sent me this quote which talked about writing the good about our friends in stone and writing their mistakes in the sand or dust. One remains for a long time, whereas the other is blown away by the first breeze that comes. I believe that this is the single most important secret of a good marriage. To have this selective memory for the good and selective amnesia for the bad. Unfortunately, many people have the opposite, which is the root cause of all problems. The good is taken for granted as one's right, while any mistake is seen as a premeditated crime and treated accordingly. Islam advises us to do the opposite, to forgive not once, but 70 times every day, without reservation. Now, brothers and sisters, for the spouse, his or her companion is and should be their best friend. The marriage is a contract where the spouses are undertaking to make each other their best friends for life from that day onwards. It's important to remember that friendship is only as good as the investment you make in it. It's not magic. It's not automatic. It doesn't just happen. It is made consciously with effort, and the results are directly proportionate to the investment. It is necessary to spend time with your spouse, not with your friends in some club or somewhere else or hanging out here and there. No, spend time with your spouse. It is necessary to develop common interest. It is necessary to take pleasure in each other's work and activity. It is necessary to support each other in all that is good. It is necessary to ensure that you give feedback with care and concern, and never critical feedback in public. Never ever criticize your spouse before other people. That is shameful. It is insulting to the spouse. And no matter how patient your husband or wife might be, believe me, you are hurting them, you are hurting their heart, and this is a sign of gross misconduct on your part. Should you give them critical feedback? Of course. If that is what you need to do, if you think that is so important, do it alone. By yourself, in private, just the two of you, and that do it with care and concern. Don't rave and rant. And never ever do it in public, no matter what. Never ever do it in public. It destroys the heart, your heart and their heart. My brothers and sisters, remember, it is very important to remember that between spouses there are no defenses, because there is trust. And for that reason, it is essential for the spouses to exercise special care in dealing with each other's emotions. It is necessary to build a language together, a language of looks and words and signs. Special words that you call your spouse. हम उर्दू में बोलते हैं लाड़ करना, लाड़ के अल्फाज, which only the two of you understand, the two of you love. It's very important. A language that over time becomes almost magical in how it enables one spouse to know what the other is feeling without explanation. A language which is a joy to see when you look at those who have been happily married for many years. It is necessary to consciously remember the good that one's spouse does for the other, especially when they are having a bad day or if they are acting strange. They will do that, believe me. They will have bad days. They will have, it's not only bad hair days, generally bad days. Also when they are women, when the women are in their PMS, premenstrual syndrome, there are physical and emotional changes that are happening in the woman. She's not herself, right? She may look like she's crazy. Maybe she is for that period. But what doesn't help is if you also become crazy. Have patience. Think about all the rest of the month and the year that she was beautiful and good to you. Don't react. Right? Now this is the love that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about when He said that He put it between the spouses. Like all potential wealth, it has to be assessed or it will remain buried under the sand. Let me give you 2 tips of what to do. We used to do this, my wife and I used to do this in the early days of our marriage, alhamdulillah. One was, we kept a book, a notebook, like it was like a big register, on a table in the living room. So it was a table, an incidental kind of table which we passed by, several times in the day. And in that, we would write the good that we've received from the other on that day. Right? It's not that we were not on talking terms and we were leaving messages. No. We would talk and so on and so forth. But sometimes what happens is, when you are talking, you don't remember what you need to say, what you want to say and so on. Also, very strangely, unfortunately, in some cultures and definitely in our culture, to say something good about somebody is very difficult. Right? Even Islamically, we have this is a very wrong image to say don't praise somebody to their face. Now, there is a hadith. Rasulullah told us this. Do not praise somebody to the face. But praise in this hadith, what is meant is flattery, not appreciation for genuine good that comes from that person. Because in the life of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he praised people to their face not once, but multiple times, and multiple people. And he praised, the way he praised, it was, there cannot be anything superior to that. Absolutely superlative. He said about Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radhiyallahu anhu, he said, when Umar comes down one road, the shaitan finds and looks for another road. What kind of thing is that? That's not praise? Isn't that not praise? About Abu Bakr Siddiq radhiyallahu anhu, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I have fulfilled the rights of everyone except Abu Bakr. And Abu Bakr radhiyallahu anhu, he said, Allah will fulfill those rights on my behalf. Right? And there are many others. Now, he's not flattery. Flattery is lies, basically. Where you are saying you are exaggerating somebody's, goodness and their qualities. So, please differentiate between the two. I am talking about appreciating somebody's good. Remember, somebody slogs the whole day to create this beautiful home for you or to cook this beautiful meal for you, and you just come and sit there and you eat it up and go away. Not one word of appreciation and say, Jazakallah khair, thank you so much, what a beautiful meal. Thoroughly I enjoyed this meal, so beautiful. On the contrary, we eat the food and we criticize, and we know that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam never ever criticized food. Never ever. We eat the meat and we say, you know what, but however, a little bit more salt would have been nice. Maybe you should have put some more onions. La hawla quwwata illa billah. Please, my brothers and sisters, it's not magic. Love is not magic. Love grows. That's why I tell people, don't fall in love. All falls create hurt, right? You fall down something, you break your neck. Grow in love. And this will come, the biggest strength, the biggest tool to create love in a marriage is mutual appreciation. Tell your wife, tell your husband, wow, you're looking good, beautiful, fantastic, lovely clothes. Remember, as I'm speaking to the women now, think about this, your husband goes to work every day. Every morning the man goes to work. And many people work in jobs where left to themselves, they would leave that job in 1 second. They don't like the job, they don't like the company, they don't like the boss, they don't like the subordinates. But they're slogging, they give their guts there because it gives them money, they can earn a salary, and the reason they need that salary is because they are supporting the whole family. How many of you truly appreciate that? And you say, this is a man who has dedicated his life for me. Just think about that. Just think about that. For many people who have been married for 20, 30, 40 years, your husband really looked after you more than your father did. You were with your father for the first 18, 19, 20, 25 years of your life. After that, you have been with your husband for 40 years. You don't want to appreciate that? Here is a man who gave his life for you. Literally. He goes to work every day, he works hard, he takes stuff from people that he left to himself, he need not have done it and he would not have done it. But he's doing it because he is married to you. Similarly for the husband, remember this woman, she left her home. She left the environment in which she grew up. She left all the comforts of her house. She left all the people she loved to come and be with you. And with you, she is literally, within quotes, doing the role of a servant. Right? She takes care of your food, she takes care of your clothes, she takes care of the house, she cleans the house, and so on and so forth. You have children, she takes care of your children. And she does all of that for free. You're not paying her a salary, although in Islam, she can demand a salary. So, be good to them. Make sure you give your wife enough spending money for herself. This is a big problem with people. You don't understand this. You are committing a sin. You think you give her spending money for the house to buy potatoes, that is spending money for the house. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, the men are the qawamun over the women. Ar-rijalu qawamun ala nisa. Because Allah has given authority to some over some, and because of what they spend on their wives. Spending on the wife means free spending money. Whatever you can afford. That is money you give her to use as she wishes. She can send it to her family. She can go buy clothes with it. She can do what she wants with it. Spend it on ice cream. And you don't question her about that. That's hers. She can do whatever she wants with it. In Islam, as I told you, marriage is a contract. And this is what the contract does. This is what it gives you. Finally, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used the word rahmah. Now this is a special quality of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself. Mercy. And this is mercy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows towards his creation even when they don't deserve it. Allah Jalla Jalaluhu used this word to describe the relationship between the spouses in marriage. My brothers and sisters, we are merciful to those who we feel responsible for. We are merciful to our children, whereas we may not exercise the same mercy for somebody else's child. As they said, अपना बच्चा रोया तो दिल में दर्द, दूसरे का बच्चा रोया तो सिर में दर्द. He said, if our child cries, it's a pain in the heart. If somebody else's child cries, it's a pain in the head. Right? It's a headache. I'm not saying you should be that, but this is what the general tendency is. The word Rahma in the context of marriage draws our attention to the responsibility that the spouses have for one another. It also draws attention to the fact that over the years, each of them has made a lifetime's investment to the other. Lifetime's investment into the other. Husband has invested his life in the wife has invested her life in the husband. To show Rahmah, to be merciful, is to honor that investment and to thank the other person for making it, not to take this for granted. Rahmah is also the quality when, for reasons of life or destiny, one of the spouses is unable to look after the other or to satisfy them, the other one still treats him or her with love and respect and mercy in memory of what they did. Rahmah is to give without asking for return. It is to give because there is a pleasure in giving. Rahmah is to forgive. Forgiveness is what? Forgiveness is Rahmah. Sometimes people say, oh, but she did this, he did that. That is why you need to forgive. If they didn't do anything, why would you forgive? Yes, they did that. So you forgive. Why do you forgive? Because you want Allah to forgive you. Rasulullah said, show mercy to the people on the earth and the one on the heavens will show mercy to you. In a marriage, those people on the earth are your husband and wife. Treat each other with dignity. Never complain about each other before other people. I remember this two incidents that I want to share with you. One was an incident where this young couple got married and the girl would talk to her family, would talk to her mother every single day on Skype or whatever it was, and the mother would give advice. And the girl would say, oh, today this is what my husband did. The mother would say this to him, do this with him. What was the result? The result was, after a couple of years, divorce. Understand this. If you are not adult enough to deal with your husband or your wife, you are not adult enough to get married. Stay home. If you are adult, then live like an adult. Take your own decisions. Make mistakes, no problem. But don't go running to your mother or running to your father for everything. And you fathers and mothers, shut your mouth. Don't interfere. You decide, is your child capable of being married? Is your child an adult? If your child is a child, there is no child marriage in Islam. Don't get them married. Keep them home. Let them stay with you for their whole life. It doesn't matter. But if you get them married, leave them alone. Don't interfere. Let your daughter deal with her husband as an adult. Let your son deal with his wife as an adult. Don't interfere. Mothers-in-law, and to some extent fathers-in-law, but I am not being, gender specific here. Here, mothers are generally, my experience is, mothers-in-law are a curse in a marriage. They don't have to be, they become. Because they continuously side with their son or daughter against the other. My point is, why did you get them married in the first place? If that is what you want to do, you would have been much better off keeping your son or your daughter in your lap. Stop interfering. If I remember seeing this incident, one of my very good friends in South Africa, it happened in their house. The daughter was recently married. She came home and she started to say something about her husband and his family to her mother. The lady of the house, may Allah bless her, straight away she said, that is your family now. I don't want to hear anything negative about them. If there is a problem, deal with it. What was the result? The result was they are now happily married and they have several children. Alhamdulillah. One, where the mother didn't have the sense to stop interfering, marriage broke up. In the other, where the mother knew what she was doing, happy marriage. Stay out of the life of your children who are married. And as I told you, if you don't think you can do that, don't get them married. Right? And as far as the so-called children are concerned, you're not children anymore. If you got married, you are not a child. Stop running to your mother or your father for everything. Just salam alaikum, wa alaikum salam, be nice to them, be good to them. That the matters between the two of you must remain between the two of you only. Please understand this. Otherwise, you will make your marriage a living hell in this world. My brothers and sisters, marriage in Islam is a commitment made to each other of integrity, of love, of respect and mercy that the spouses are undertaking to make to each other in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Jalla Jalaluhu, who is the witness to our thoughts, to our intentions and to our actions. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless all of you. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make your marriages a means of khair and barakah, and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help you in ways that you cannot imagine. وصلى الله على نبي الكريم وآله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.